Hello, 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 hello. Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope that you guys are doing good out there. Thank you so much for being on with me tonight. I'm so excited, y'all. It's Thursday, and I have another wonderful woman that I would like to highlight on the nitty grit. Welcome in all of you on Facebook, all of you on YouTube. I appreciate you because you know you can be anywhere else, but you are here tonight with me, and I appreciate you so much. Y'all, my guest tonight is a wonderful woman who I actually got a moment to talk to at a beauty pageant that we were both in. She's skilled in so many ways. She's like a triple treat. She is not from here. She's from China, but she made her way to here, and we're gonna get into her story in just a little bit. Yeah, but I'm just always excited because I believe really in celebrating women and really highlighting who they are, what they do in the community, how they're making changes, and all of that good stuff. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Christina Molitor. There she is.
Hi,
Hello,
everyone.
beautiful.
Hey, Chantel. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you could be here with your beautiful skin, girl. It's glowing. Did I pronounce your name right? How do you say it? Say it for the people.
Christina Molitor.
Molitor, yes. Welcome to the nitty grit. I'm so glad you could be here. How is your day today?
It's been amazing. It was a very productive day overall, and I had a chance to spend some time with my mother and, um, get ahead in some of my projects for school and also stay in touch with friends. And it was just a great day overall. How was your day, Chantel?
It was pretty good. I got to have lunch with a friend that I hadn't seen in a few years, since the pandemic, actually. And that was beautiful. We had a great time catching up. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what it's about. It's about engaging and connecting and, kindling friendships that you haven't seen in a long time. So I had a good day. It was a good day. But I'm glad you are here. And I'm so excited to get into the conversation with you. But before we jump into like these questions that I have for you, are you ready for some questions?
Yes.
Because I'd love for you to tell the people a little bit about you.
Okay. I am currently 27 years old, about to turn 28 pretty soon this month. And I was born in China, and I was adopted when I was 4.5 years old by two Caucasian parents. And believe it or not, so I see them more as angels than adopted parents because they rescued me from the orphanage, and that was what not one of my best moments in my life, but previously I don't want to go too much into details, but let's just say my biological mother neglected me for the first 3 years of my life, and then I was saved by a police officer, taken to the orphanage, and then my parents rescued me from this really desolate place that you would see in Harry Potter movies. If you've seen you know the different dungeons portrayed in the movies, that's kind of a replica of what the orphanage looked like.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. Now, I appreciate you sharing that. I wasn't going to dig into that, but I'm so grateful you shared that because I remembered you shared that with me. And I just felt like, wow, here's this woman who, that's a whole nother show in itself, to be honest. Because there are a lot of people out there that are adopted and they have different situations. And, maybe we can definitely talk a little bit about it because I do want to talk about your journey and how you got here. But I'm so grateful you share that because I do believe that it helps people get a sense of who you are and your background. So thank you. I do want to just jump into the question that I have for you because you are doing things. You're an entrepreneur. Is there some water in the background? I hear like,
Oh, it sounds like static noise.
yeah. Do you have a microphone on?
Mm-mm.
That was strange. I told you earlier, anything can happen. So y'all, anything can happen on a live show. So just be prepared. We're not doing anything. We're having a conversation. Okay, so let's get into questions. I'm thinking maybe if you turn down your volume on your end a little bit, it might help because I'm actually picking up your volume too.
How is that?
A little bit more.
Okay.
And that's on the computer. Is that your computer mic?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have control over the volume on the actual channel.
Okay. And maybe let's do this. Y'all give us a second real quick. Go to your audio and click the echo cancellation because
Oh,
that can be
okay.
it too. Like under
I
settings at
see.
the very bottom down there.
It's fixed. I think.
It is. You hear me the delay?
Hmm?
You hear the delay on my voice?
A little bit.
I think it's picking up your mic.
Oh,
Let's see here. Yeah. One of it. Do you have earplugs?
yes. But how is it now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I don't hear. I just heard something, but I don't hear it anymore. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's it. Okay, y'all. So thank you for your patience, y'all. We have to get this audio stuff right. No more echo, they say. Yay. Thank you. So, you are an entrepreneur and a full-time student. I mean, so is that correct? You're full-time, right?
Yes, a full-time student.
So, how do you juggle being, doing business? Because we're going to talk about what you do a little bit, but being a student and full-time and pursuing entrepreneurship. Like, if you had to give like 3 bullet points of how you do that, girl, go ahead.
Well, I'm currently the co-founder of the Global Leaders, Entrepreneurs, and Altruists Network, the Glean Female Founders Network, which connects female founders and promotes a supportive network between the United States and China. And so, right now, I'm focused mainly on my studies, but um, I meet with my co-founder every single week, and we talk about strategies and different ideas for how to expand the network and things of that nature. But right now, I'm just putting a pause mainly on it, and then previously, I was focused on the Chimer AI stealth fashion tech startup, which is an AI startup that I co-founded with Nermeen and Shalisa, and it is basically a full stack neurophysics tech consulting firm that helps businesses, mostly small businesses, with understanding how to improve their businesses. Um, so we're more of a consulting firm, and so and then I did that for about 4 months, and then I decided it was just taking up a lot of my time, so I'm mostly focused on my studies now, and yeah, it's a full-time job.
I can see. I mean, that what you did with the other person, like you being the co-founder, that takes a lot of your time, of course, and a lot of your brain. But I love that now you said that you took a break from it. Are you still connected with the organization? Like, are you guys still in communication? Okay. Tell me a little bit about your studies with your major. Does your major coincide with what you're doing? What you did with that firm, that the consulting firm, or are you majoring in something completely different?
Well, I'm currently studying communications management, so it's very similar work. However, the other was more about I was a CEO in training, so I was being taught certain mechanisms to improve the company. But for this particular semester, I had to reach out to a client. My team and I reached out to a client to see how to potentially help them with a crisis prevention plan and to come up with ways to mitigate crises um,
Mm.
from escalating. And we were coming up with different frameworks to ameliorate problems that may arise. And for instance, so we came up with a possible roof cave-in situation, and believe it or not, it was very opportune. We read in the news that there was a roof cave-in near that area, and there were three houses that were under severe, problems. And so it was just very opportune, but the organization thought that that would never happen. But with such a great team, it was fun. Yes, work can be fun because when you when you have a lot of synergistic energy, it can make the learning process a lot more feasible and enjoyable.
You're so young and you're doing all that stuff, girl. You go. I love it. I love it. I love it. So when did you start? Like, did you start like when did your career start? Like what age? 21? Like, because I think this is really good for the millennials to hear, like you're basically 27 and you're still schooling, but you're already co-founding a couple of companies. So tell us, when did you start? What age?
2 years ago.
Okay, so at 25.
Yes.
That's cool. Y'all hear that? 25 is a great number. Now, were you always entrepreneurial? Like even because I know sometimes we literally when we're young, we're like cultivating stuff at like 16 years old. Were you always entrepreneurial, or was this something that you just kind of decided when you got out of high school?
I've always had a passion for starting my own company. I
Mm.
wanted to start my own perfume company at a young age, just and tell people that I wanted to smell flowers for a living.
Ooh, I like that.
um, but I realized there was a lot of steps involved, and I needed a chemistry background, among other things. And I think majoring in communications management opens a lot more doors, and there's a lot more avenues to grow. And in case I end up not liking that, then I have something I have something that can branch out to many different avenues in the end. And so I'm hoping to do that maybe when I'm much older, when when I have a lot more business experience. But it's quite a possibility.
That's awesome. That's cool. And I don't know if you noticed, but you lit up when you talked about that. So it's definitely in the works. It's definitely in the works. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. But like, when you think about your career and you're in schooling now, and so you're focusing primarily on schooling, that's what it sounds like for me. Is there a goal that you have to get back into the whole drive of like going back to the organization that you have co-found and getting more involved? Or is there another project that you have on the line that is waiting for you when you graduate? I don't know, when do you graduate?
This December, but the graduation ceremony is next year. So
Come on, girl. Yes, that's so cool. Coming around the corner. So what are your plans? Are you planning on going back to spending more time with the consulting firm, or is there another project that you have
well,
in
I
the
would love I would love to work in LA after I graduate, or can pursue higher education for another degree, and whichever comes first. So we'll see.
That's cool. You're like, we'll see. Hey, sometimes you got to just allow yourself to see what comes your way, because a lot of times God is directing things your way, and you just got to pay attention to them, because you never know where you're going to be led, which is so cool. And you have options, which is really wonderful. So I'm encouraged to hear that you got options, you got a background, that you already been doing this entrepreneurial thing, and I love. And hopefully, maybe one day you'll get back to that thing that you loved. You wanted to just smell flowers and you wanted to do fragrance and all that. Did you meet the young lady that was and we'll talk more about the pageant, that does fragrance? You guys should pair up and have a conversation.
Oh, yeah, she's such a beautiful lady inside and out.
Yeah, I think that's a great conversation you guys should try to have. But let's talk about culture a little bit because you talked a little bit earlier about your background and that you were adopted, and were born in China, correct?
Yes.
Um, why do you think culture is like so important for an individual? Like you're over here in the US, you come from China, you have an experience of being adopted. I mean, your story is different from someone else's. But yet you're here and you're making your way and you're doing pretty good at it, which is pretty cool.
Thank you.
What would you say, how important is keeping your culture and all of the things you're doing in a new state, in a
That's
new,
a great
yeah.
That's a great question, Chantel. I think culture is very important in the makeup of our identity because with culture, there's a basic psychological need to identify with certain norms. So when I was in China, I was molded and shaped to be a Chinese citizen or just to be a Chinese person. And then when I was adopted, I had to adapt to the American norms. And I think the beauty of culture is that we're kind of like an amalgamation of all these different things, and with culture it's just one aspect of us, but it shapes us into who we are, and that's based on the unique traditions, attitudes, beliefs, and values that we kind of adapt over the long run. And so I think culture is it's paramount to understanding ourselves.
Oh, that's good, Christina. It's paramount to understanding ourselves, y'all. That's good. It's very interesting, and I love that you said that because I absolutely agree. Um, I know, like, as I don't know if you've ever done any acting or anything like that, but I know that a lot of times actors were kind of told, and even for myself, I come from the country. I'm a country girl, right? So I have this southern drawl and this southern accent. A lot of times there was, I don't know if they're still doing it today, but we were told, like, kind of like you got to work on your accent because you need to sound more like everybody else, right? And they would really kind of like, people would take classes to actually almost diminish their culture, diminish a part of them for certain roles. And I could never understand it because I'm like, why not have the person just be who they are, because who they are and their slang and their culture, it probably will add to this role in a powerful way. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. And for those of you who are watching, I absolutely think that's important because you do want to be yourself, you do want to be authentic, and you do want to be true. And if you're eliminating culture, because I absolutely believe your accent is a part of your culture. It's what you know, it's how you were raised. And so I understand if it's a British film, you're not going to have some girl from the country. But if it is you trying to create something and diminish the culture, when it's a role that you actually can play, that's American role, right? Why not have the person? There's country Americans. So I think what you're talking about is so good and so true. And I think for even the younger generation to understand that culture is very important for an individual. So, with you saying that, how has your culture influenced what you do in your life?
um I think I'm shaped by my friends and family on a daily basis, and by the media that I and the different stories that I read online and from my school, and just there's culture all around us. Culture is how we make sense of the world.
Mm.
As Carl Weiss said, it's kind of like sense making. We take what we know from our surroundings and then we make sense from it. And it gives
Ooh, that's good. Keep going, girl. I like it. I was just saying, oh, that's good.
Okay. So it's kind of like sense making where when we're confused about something or something is novel or foreign to us, we identify with certain things that make the most sense to us based on past experiences or based on what we've been led to think from our friends and family members, and that kind of guides us into how we take the next steps from there.
Oh, I like that. Guiding, it guides you. I think that that's really a great tool, like to really look at your culture and how it would guide you. And honestly, it's guided you in what you've done and what you've accomplished. Would you say that? Like with you been an entrepreneur and helping someone else form a business. Um, I don't know in your background, growing up, maybe you didn't get that in China, but did you get it with your parents that raised you? Do you
Yeah,
feel like you got that kind of like structure with providing and helping you to be able to make sense out of your life and what you were doing?
definitely. They gave me a very firm foundation of who I am today, and without their guidance, I don't know where I would be today.
Wow. Give them a hand. I always say parents that adopt, I'm really inspired by them because I feel like they're really contributors to society in a big way. And your life is taking this trajectory that who knows what it would have been like before, you know? Um, so let's talk a little bit about, because I kind of titled this show about, culture and character. How do you think culture and character go hand in hand? You talked a little bit about it making sense for who you are. How does character go with culture? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, culture is more of what happens to us, and character is what we make of it, and what we do in our surrounding. Okay, it's like character is basically our innate desire to become who we want to be, and then culture is what society tells us who we should be.
Mm, mm. That's a good one, and it's also um, with the culture thing. The challenge with that is that when society is got their spiel in it, that's where people have a challenge because your culture, as you mentioned earlier, it's like where you from, who you are, like what your experiences were, your upbringing and all of that, your surroundings. And of course you come and you connect with other cultures because that's why there's so many different races on the planet. We all get to learn from each other's cultures, but when society starts to tap into culture and starts slicing it, that's when I do believe there's a shift in people's character. And so the character of who we're becoming is so important that we don't lose the culture of what we know to be true about who we are. And so that's a pretty, I love that you mentioned that because it is so true. Society does try to tell us who we're supposed to be based on all their advertisement. I want to shift real quick and look at some of these questions, or some of these, not questions, but some of these statements people are making real quick. Someone says, oh, thank you. What a cool backdrop. Thank you. That's my husband. Thanks, babe. I like it too. Hey, beautiful. Looking forward to another fantastic nitty grit session. Hey, Christina. Amazing testimony. Someone said, amazing. Wow. Bless your amazing heart and bless those angels who poured life into you. Someone said, welcome, Christina. Wow, that sounds like an amazing organization and network. Congratulations on that accomplishment. And I love the stuff you do. Brilliant. Entrepreneur is the wave of the future. That's so cool, Christina. I love that understanding about culture. Inside culture is what happens to us. Character is how we respond to it. So thank you for that, girl. You dropping a few gems. Thank y'all for putting those comments in and those highlights because we love when you highlight things because that means you're getting something out of tonight, which we love. We always love when the show and someone is learning something or getting something. So thank you. I want to talk a little bit about for you just as an entrepreneur, like I know as an entrepreneur, you're kind of like taking a little break to focus more on schooling.
Mhm.
But what life principles do you live by when it comes to entrepreneurship?
There's so many great quotes that I could mention, but I think just do it. Like as Nike once said, just do it. I
Mm.
think that's the best quote of all because do, so many times we overthink something, but then that prevents us from just going about it. And if we overthink things, it just derails the outcome because like I think it's better to be a doer than just someone who overthinks everything. Like
I've done that.
so I mean there are no secrets to success. I think it's the result of preparation, hard work and the belief in yourself.
Ooh, those are good, Christina. Preparation, hard work, and belief in yourself. Somebody put that in the chat. Preparation, hard work, and belief in yourself. So good. So true. Because we all know that preparation gets you to where you need to go. And the hard work, it pays off. You have to do it. And the faith in yourself is so key because if you don't believe in yourself, you'll never do it. And I love that you use that quote, just do it. That quote is everywhere. It's a great quote. And I love too that you say don't overthink things. I've been guilty of that. Have you been guilty of that too? Yeah, it's easy. I was talking with my friend today at lunch, and that's kind of what we were kind of talking about. We didn't use those words, but it was just really just going and doing what you know you're supposed to do instead of like contemplating or waiting for someone else to kind of push you to do it or waiting for something to happen to do it. And with you talking about overthinking, that is so key because when we do that, it literally declutters us from really like a hold us hostage. When you
Mhm.
think like, oh, things hold us hostage, and we don't make the moves we need to make. So that's a good one. I appreciate that. Um, what uh, what would you say? I'm hearing myself again.
Oh,
Did you hear that
no, it's fine on my end.
echo? Let me make sure that there's. Let me make sure it's turning back on mine. No, mine's is off.
Mine's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Um, being that I don't hear it anymore. Being that you mentioned earlier about your transition from China to here and the challenges you had and the neglect that was there. Is there any other thing that would you say was more difficult for you? Like, what has been something that has been the most difficult to overcome in order to thrive here in the US, being that you did come over here in a situation that before um, you really didn't know where you were going to end up. But when these people kind of like took care of you and rescued you, like what would you say has been difficult even in the rescue?
I think learning the language was one of the most difficult things I had to overcome. However, I had two great parents that guided me along. So my dad used to read to me Bob books every night, and so that really helped me develop a love for books. And um, I think another thing was accepting that I was Chinese in the beginning because I was made fun of for my eyes by a couple people, and um, my dad was always humorous and he said, "If they ever say that, just go like this and say, "Oh, you actually look better with your eyes like this and it'd like this." So, um, let me get some tape for that. Are you sure? And, like, if they let's say some bully goes like this, "Hey, ha, 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 you're Chinese," and be like, "Oh, you know what? Your eyes look really good like that. Let me go ahead and get some tape from my backpack and, um, dress you up in a Chinese per like a you know how a Chinese person would dress, one of those dresses or something, and yeah, I knew he always knew what to say, and I think that wasn't a huge issue, it only happened a few times, but other than that, I found my experience in the US very, um a relatively easy transition. because of my parents. They
Mhm.
they took me to preschool early so I could ride on the tricycles. They got me into many activities like horseback riding, swimming, tennis, gymnastics, and so I weighed only 20 pounds when I was 4.5 years old. So I didn't really have muscles. I wasn't strong enough to go across the monkey bars. So they took me to all these different activities so I could, build up my muscle mass and just become more confident overall from that little shy girl to more of a confident person overall.
Wow. Ooh, girl, your story is is pretty amazing. I
Thank
just love what they did for you and how they inspired and helped you. In educating you too about this culture. You're coming from a whole different culture, and you're adjusting in language. I always had a hard time learning. I tried to take French, girl. I did it for a little bit. I was like this, but I definitely try it. But I'm inspired by you that you didn't allow your circumstance to become you. You took your circumstances and you looked, and even just the bullying that you said, and it still goes on today. I mean, they were bullying, when I was in school too. Bullying is one of those things that I think it just is continues because people are broken and people don't have the parent kind of parents you have sometimes. And then sometimes they do have those kind of parents and they just don't listen, and they just become who they're becoming. But I love how your dad gave you those tools. It's a great tool to flip the script a little bit and go, hey, let me keep your eyes like that. I love it. I was not doing that. When people bullied me, I was ready to fight. But I love the tool that they gave you. That's pretty cool. I got to meet dad one day. That's awesome. Um, is there anything that you feel like you would have done differently if you had the chance with your I know you talked about what was difficult for you, the language. Is there anything that you would have done differently, in your 27 years when you came over here and when you actually learned? Because I know you came over here pretty young, but is there anything that you would have done differently? If not, it's totally fine. It's just a question.
No, actually, I wouldn't do anything differently because I really enjoyed the journey that I was on with my parents, and they took me traveling to a lot of different countries, so I immersed myself in other cultures. Um, my mom took me to various activities to learn and develop and grow, to help me develop and grow as a young woman, and I think all of those experiences translated into who I am today, so I wouldn't change a thing.
Oh, I love it. I love it, girl. Yes. Um, for me, there were things that I wish I would have done differently. It sounds like you have this great, I love your mindset. Um, there were things I would have done differently only because I did not make some of the choices that I could have. I made some different choices. And ultimately, they grew me. They helped me in my character. My character is the way that it is today is because I had to fall in some areas that I made some awful choices. I had to fall so that I can get back up and grow in my character. So, but I'm always encouraged when I see people like, you know what? I feel like this has been good. It's been good. And it has been good for me too. But yeah, I definitely would have done some things differently. But you're on this journey, right? And you got these wonderful people in your life, and you're doing this entrepreneurship stuff, and then you're doing schooling, and and then you circle around and circle your way to pageantry. How did you end up there? I want to talk a little bit about that because that's completely different. It's in a different direction from all the stuff that you've been doing. So, how did you end up in pageantry, which is where we met?
Well, actually, Janet Walters reached out to me on Facebook through Toastmasters. So we were both in Toastmasters from the same district, District 52. And so she found me on Facebook by saying, "Hey, would you be interested in pageantry? And she got me involved and gave me a taste of what it was like by describing her experiences and all the wonderful things that she found from it. And I was intrigued and I wanted to learn more. And so she introduced me to Marlena, and things just escalated from there. And I loved my time with both of them. And I was like, oh, I'm hooked. Like I love their personalities and the things that Marlena was doing, just empowering women to become themselves and showing how they can improve their communities in various ways. And it just is such a beautiful thing. And so I wanted to be a part of that.
That's so cool. Now, I didn't know that. So that's a cool story. I actually had Janet on the show too, and she talked a little bit about her journey. That's wonderful. So you're a recruit. They recruited you. That's cool. What is your platform? We all have to have a platform. What was yours? I can't remember.
Mine was about AI. So just
Okay.
and I talked about my startup or my with my friends, co-founders. So it was all of our startups, not just mine. So Chimera AI, more of a AI consulting firm / fashion company. It's we do a little of everything. So it's what's intriguing is that I don't want to say it's a stealth fashion tech startup. So I don't want to say too much because there are a lot of things being developed at the moment. Um, but we were working with an entrepreneur who had a AI assistant that helped hospitalize children for one, and then there were other interesting projects. Like the team had created a app for UCLA about healthcare and just helping students understand our esoteric terminology. And um, I'll just put it at that. But right now, there's just so many different things. But it's like a marketing agency, also a consulting firm, and then a fashion tech startup. There's a lot going on, but just stay tuned.
I know you. I remember we talked a little bit. You can't share everything, so I get it. Thank you for what you did share, though.
Hmm?
Thank you for what you did share. I think what you guys are doing is going to be pretty powerful. It's going to really do some great. It's going to be a good addition to that community, healthcare community. So I won't pull no more out of it because I know you guys are still working on some things and crafting some things and doing the business end of it. So, but I definitely appreciate that. Um, when you talk about pageantry and your platform, have you been a how have you been using it at late since the pageant? Like, how are you actually able to? Have you been going to more speaking? I know you can't speak too much about it. Like, how do you feel this particular platform is going to inspire the world? Like, what would you say if you had to sum it up without telling us everything about it?
Well, it has to do with orphans. So I would like to give back by showing orphans the possibility of eventually becoming pageant queens and being able to become productive members of society by teaching them certain skill sets so that they can develop and then also pass the baton. Um, and I want to give them a chance to become little beauty queens and showcase how their talents can be received by the public and show them various skills that they can utilize to help other people in the world. And I don't want it to just be Chinese orphans, but orphans from wherever, being able to network with certain organizations to make that a reality.
Wow, that's going to be so amazing. Do you know how much life you're going to be giving people? I mean, I feel like that is going to help many individuals who have been adopted, because some people that are adopted, they don't have your story. They didn't have the parents that really took care of them. There's a whole nother side where people are being taken care of, for the money. There's so much involved. So there's not not everybody has what you have. And I think it's going to be a beautiful platform to inspire, to allow people to keep dreaming. I don't know, there's a lot of people who are still broken over there, being given up, for adoption. And so you're going to be able to help in so many areas, girl. That is, oh, I mean, have you guys started like laying out the groundworks for all of that? Like, is it almost ready, or are you still kind of like laying down the groundworks of the pageantry part?
The pageantry part is, so I think I'd like to do that sometime in the future.
Okay.
Um, right now, I know of someone who wants to work with me on this orphan project, which is separate from the pageant, but um, I want to see where that goes first, and then once that gains momentum, just see where how I can fit that into pageantry later on. And yeah,
I
there's so
think
many.
that's great. That's great, girl. I would totally be interested in, I'd love to support you in that, like in any way that I can. Because I think that that's a beautiful thing. I think that's a game changer. That makes impact upon the world with that idea and that goal. So I'm definitely going to be praying for you with that, because I think that, you know you're because your story is so remarkable, and because you don't have any bitterness from your journey. Even though you were given up, you found hope in another family who actually is your family. And it's just so beautiful that you're going to take this message, take this testimony of yours, and actually go and do something with it. I think that that is when human beings change the world. So thank you for being willing to do that. I'm very, very inspired. Um, wow, there's some more comments on here. I want to read them for you. Someone says it's beautiful that she has a good background in technology, especially with the development of AI and Web3 for the future generation. So awesome, so true. You are an inspiring young lady, and you already desire to give back and help others. This sounds amazing. Helping to develop young, productive members of society. Girl, that's good. That's good. Thank y'all for those comments. I appreciate you. Well, our time is pretty much almost up, but I really appreciate this conversation. It's been so good. I would love for people to kind of know where they could find you if they want to talk to you more about this idea of pageantry with orphans, and then AI stuff. So where can they find you? Go ahead and tell them.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Miss_Christina. Well, I changed my Instagram handle. So it's going to be Christina 2023, and I'll put it later in the chat. And you can also find me on LinkedIn at Christina Molitor, and those are my main channels.
Thank you, girl. Y'all hear that? That's Christina Molitor. Young and gifted. Young and gifted. She's 27 years old, y'all, but she's about to make some changes in this world, and it's very exciting to have the young generation like her, people like her who are really wanting to make some change. So all you young folk up out there, please learn from this woman. She's got a lot to offer. And any of you who may have been adopted, or you were orphans before, she would be a great person to talk to. I love your heart. Just who you are. It's beautiful. And I want you to know that. And so I really appreciate you coming on tonight. And I love to talk to you on a sidebar and get some more conversation in. But it has been great having you here. Thank you guys, YouTube and Facebook, for watching. I appreciate you as always. Join me next week, as I'm going to have one of my girls from the pageant from Texas. Stacy's going to be joining us. So next Thursday, same time, join me on the Nitty Grit. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, make it a great day, because you can. Peace, y'all.
Thanks for
Bye.
watching.